Okay, we are underway. This is the title of this video. It is a part 2 to this video that's already made. My personal opinion is you will find this video more appropriate and more immediately helpful. However, my whole thing of teaching is always go back to the word. I'm just going to give you a better image of that and let it play. Let the word give you the answer is my whole theory. And this continues on with my line of thinking. This is Gregg Shorthand, okay? Brilliant stuff. Now it looks like a bunch of lines, unless you have someone like a teacher. There's plenty of good videos on YouTube. However, I have not seen anybody present it in the fast manner that I have, nor have I ever in my whole lifetime with any memory experts ever hear someone explain how Gregg Shorthand and the major system are the exact same system. You learn one, you got two. Let me repeat that. Gregg Shorthand and the major system follows the same exact pattern. It has to. All right, let's go ahead. This is the voice and on-voice syllables of the voice. Okay? K and G and K are very similar. R and L are very similar. R and L, one is voiced, one is unvoiced. These are called the nasals. The N and the M, those go together. The T and D, that's when the tip of your tongue touches your hard palate. I am not a linguistic person or a speech pathologist, although I've taken a lot of speech pathologist class. Anyway, the tip of your tongue touches your hard palate. Let's just call that, there's a name for it, but let's just call it tip of the tongue to the hard palate. The P and B are called lip poppers. I'll quit shaking this screen. I keep hitting it with my elbow. Obviously P and B, and I got that locked in. Just like puppy and ball. And I'll give you some acronyms how I locked that in. I made a little bit of mistake here. I'm looking for my cursor. Oh, I can't bring it down because here's my cursor. I should have said PH. PH makes the F sound. And obviously F and V are very similar. The voice and on voice. I'm going to start it back up. In with an Irish pub, just like I have K and G locked in with the word king, and T and D locked in with the word touchdown. And there's some other examples. Obviously, you're going to want to create your own acronyms. But getting back to my other video, if you have an alphabet list of people, I would just say, the female name Kay and then Gail. And then let's say Rachel and Linda. Let's say Nancy and Mary. Let's say Tina and Diane. Let's say Patricia and Beth. Let's say Felicia and Vicky. I use should church John, but let's just stay with my name. Sue. You could use a male or female name. Jay or Janet or Jane. Janet and Jane are actually the same people, but we won't get into all that. I'm just going to start that back up. So down here, when I come and show you some good mnemonics, and I felt so bad, I actually had to change my mnemonics, some of them, because they were just a little bit tasteless.
Here I wish I would have put religious lady or, it's too late. I already made a bunch of copies. I just wish I wouldn't have put real lady there. Anyway, I'm going to start this back up.
I'll show you down below. F and V I have locked in with the word favor. Again, F would be the smaller and V would be the longer.
I have that locked in with favor for Philip. That one I kept.
Again, voice and on voice, like Philip and favor.
See, I meant to say F and V there. That was my mistake.
These actually go together. The CH. I'm sorry. The SH, the CH, and the J. Hence the acronym should church John. And I don't mean that.
See, I made those mistakes before because I was looking through my screen. And right now I can see pretty darn clearly because my phone is down. But that's good, So in this system, the acronyms always go from smallest to biggest. Should, church, John. Favor, yeah, F and V, favor. Let's just say an Irish pub, pa and ba. King, ka and ga. Let's just say religious lady. Let's just say touchdown. Or you could say Tina Davis. And you might say this is a lot of work, but if you have a pre-alphabet locked in, you could just say, oh, I don't know, Tina or let's say Tina and her last name are going to score a touchdown. Notice that triple lock in. Or let's say Patricia and Beth are going to the pub. Or let's say Felicia and Vicky are going to be doing a favor. All right, I'm going to start this back up.
In a religious context. Right?
I just said I didn't mean that acronym in a religious or you could use it as a religious context. That's up to you. See, right there. Should, church John. I really like that pub too. I really like touchdown. I've been using that for years. I've been using king for years. I had to change that because I didn't, my acronym's not good for a video.
Right there. Okay, and right there I got should, church John, favor for Philip, pub for the PNB, touchdown, and your acronyms there.
Again, the voice and on-voice syllables. See, when I was younger, I used to use this a lot. I no longer use this. I use the spelling of the word. But the only reason I'm making this video is because it's a good place to start for a rookie. Because, God, who couldn't learn a few strokes? You know what I mean? I'll show you how I did, how I, just for fun, I Gregg Shorthand, Mr. Redman. I'm going to start this back up.
You see some of this stuff I just skip, and I just use this solid letter circle for A all the time. Whether it's, I don't even know those,
As opposed to using a circle with a dot under it. My point for Gregg Shorthand is just, I use Gregg Shorthand a lot, to speed things up. Like, well, let me just leave that out. But it's not really critical. The critical thing is when the professor puts Marcia or Mr. Redman on the test, if you're using this for a lock-in, the symbol would be enough to bring back the answer, or at least give you a few clues in terms of putting 3 or 4 things on an essay, or God, even 2 would help.
Short A and long A and schwa, and the same thing with E. I just use that symbol the whole time. You see how they got for O, the cursive O is down like that. That's why they use that symbol. I is like this. I have no idea why they use that. All right.
Someone told me, because I sometimes watch Gregg Shorthand videos, but I forgot the reason why. And it was a good reason, too, but I'm going to go ahead and keep playing this.
Now, how would that help you? Okay? That's the million-dollar question.
I'll show you a better paper than this blurry one.
Okay. We have a person called Marcia, right? And I talked about in the last video how I would use the spelling of that. Mary's assault rifle.
Look how good that is, folks. This woman had breast surgery. If you have an assault rifle, where are you going to place it? Right along the shoulder. Exactly. That gives you the answer.
Okay, anybody that has assault rifle is going to put it where? Let's say by their left armpit. In this case, this woman had breast surgery. That is the Gregg shorthand for the woman, the female named Marcia.
Now you can't really see the M there because it's faded. So I will see if I can pull a better example here. Okay, obviously I made these, so they would come through on the screen.
Okay, now we're not going to go there. That's kind of obvious how that would be locked in with, that type of, let's say, disease. Here's a good example.
Notice that 38 by Marcia. Notice that 65 by Mr. Redmond. We'll come back to that. And boy, is it good knowledge.
Mrs. White. In my other video, I talked about how I would go.
I left Mrs. White out on this, but we'll play it with the blurry screen.
World Health Igloo and how she was found.
See, anytime I have a WH, that's that other video. You got a whole hour on that. It may be a little more. Anytime I have a WH, it's always World Health. And then I fill in the gaps.
She could only eat ice cream, right?
See, World Health Igloo. And because ice cream is generally served in a cooler, just associative thinking, I'm going to fire it back up.
Ice cream in an igloo would help bring it back. This would be my Gregg shorthand for Mrs. White. For W, it's so infrequently used.
That is not true. W is used all the time in the English language. I have no idea why I said that. What I meant to say is W is so similar to the letter, I believe, and forgive me if I'm wrong. I might be. That's W. That's hard C. And I believe that's long G, like Gregg. I might not have that right, folks. But, instead of doing that, I just do W. And incidentally, that's my Gregg shorthand for wood, by the way. So I come up with my little own shorthand sometimes. And this way, when a professor is talking, I can pay attention. When you learn a little bit of Gregg shorthand. Actually, let me, just for fun, and this is not staged. When I was younger, I was taking some high-powered classes, a little bit beyond my scope, because at the time I didn't have the skills I have now. Okay? I'm looking through this phone. That's cell, folks. There's my shorthand for connective tissue. There's my shorthand for bone. B-O-N. I'm looking through this phone, folks, so forgive me. But there's a lot of repetitive things. Like even in this class, I'm trying to think. I always say that word wrong. Maleficence. God, I'm butchering that. Anyway, and the other word is what? Non-maleficence. You can tell I was raised in the inner city. The way my pronunciation isn't good. Anyway, that would be a good case if this class was a 300 level class and the professor did not use PowerPoints. You best believe I would come up with my own shorthand to keep up a little bit. got off track. We'll get right back on it. Here we go.
For Gregg Shorthand, I just write it out. And if you go to your chart,
the main reason I'm remaking this video is because of this, because of that blurry screen. I believe what we're really talking about. Mrs. White, right? W-H is a dot, right? W-H-I. I is here, right? Long I. And then T would be up here, right?
and you look at H, there it is, one single dot. And if you look at I, there it is. Okay? So you're taking a test, and it's close enough to, let's say, an ice cream cone.
Basically, folks, the only point I'm making here is Mrs. White was only able to eat ice cream cones, and I made a big story around World Health Igloo and an ice cream cone and a kid that was, let's say, trying to steal her ice cream, a kid by her knee. This woman has kidney disease. Okay, so come 2 months later, if we have a comprehensive final, let's say this was a 300 level class where the bullets were real and there's no messing around, and and your back's against the wall and you're taking 4 classes and you're low on sleep and you're low on this and your car's running bad and your roof's leaking and the weather's terrible in wherever you live in a colder climate like Michigan, let's say. And all the games are off, man. And you got to show up, and you're against the ropes, and you got a little couple tricks, and guess what? You can fire back with a left hook right to the jaw and put the class behind you.
Turned upside down, and that'll tell you what? That'll tell you that Mrs. White, with that whole thing, I just used 3 ice cream cone scoops, which told me she needed to go to treatment 3 times a week. It would give you one advantage, and when you're taking the test, that's going to be right in front of you. Okay, we'll move on to Mr. Redman.
You have to remember something. Professors are only human. They would be delighted even if you remember one thing, folks. I mean, they're just trying to do their job. They want students to participate. Don't set the bar so high that you think you need to know 5 or 6 or 7 things, even if you can answer 2 little things. And of course, she's going to ask that in class, Mrs. White. And if you're using this system, okay, you're going to be able to quickly do that in your mind. Or if you're using the spelling of the word, you're going to say World Health Igloo. Something will come back. At least you can say, didn't she eat ice cream in a most, let's say, anemic attempt to give an answer? And hopefully the rest will come back to you too.
I'm going to skip how I would word map that. But this.
No, I'm not going to skip it because I don't really care because the class is almost over. I would use. I'm not leave the first name out. We'll just say, let's just leave that first letter out. Okay, I would use erectile dysfunction there. Okay, and this guy had heart surgery. That's an easy lock-in. Okay.
This is the shorthand for Redman. Okay.
That one I did. Okay, there's Mr. Redman, a lot clearer. Okay, R-E-D. All right, go to our chart. Right, R is where? Right here, right? R-E. D is up here, right? There's the first part of it. Okay, I made these into shoulder blades, okay? And I believe from memory that when you're having a heart attack, one side of your body goes numb. I honestly don't remember. All right, so you got the spelling of that word. You got Gregg Shorthand. God, what more do you want? it's going to be on the test. It's going to come right back to you.
Okay? He had a heart condition.
I'm obviously layering my voice over this first video, so please don't think I'm being like I can't remember what I said from 1 second to another. I'm gonna start this previous video up.
We'll just call that along his chest, and there's his heart. And when you have heart pain,
I like that, and I mean, how quaint is that? There's his heart. Oh, I mean, God, you get lucky like this sometimes, folks.
We'll just say that.
In fact, a friend of mine would say the way the human mind works, you always get lucky because the mind fills in the gaps.
I believe it's one side of the arm that kind of thinks out on you when you're having heart trouble. I forget which one it is. Somehow I want to say the left one, but that's a guess. Anyway, that's
meaning the left side of your body goes numb during a heart attack. Or it could be the right. I don't remember.
Close enough to a left arm. If you're taking a test and you know at least a little bit of shorthand, you get my point. It's not like a cheat sheet, gang. It is a cheat sheet. Okay, the same thing with Charlie. I talked about how I would lock that in with my acronyms. Church assault rifle. Anybody that would have an assault rifle in a church, there's a high likelihood they might be suffering from emotional setbacks, okay? I believe this guy's case was, schizophrenia. Now, right here is the symbol for Charlie. There's R, right?
This is terrible.
And just in case we don't...
I wish I would have redid this here. Well, actually, let me, I'm with you. Let me, church, Charlie. Okay, there's Charlie. That was done. I don't use this. This is still pretty good though. Char. That should be a smooth L and an E. I forgot what I said on this first video, so I'm gonna play it.
You always want to. I don't care. You always want to test somebody, right? If you're from the inner city, they say trust nobody.
I don't even know why I said that. That's such an ignorant comment. I get so ghetto sometimes.
Buddy, not that I believe that statement, but you get my.
Then why did you say it?
Point.
Sorry, don't mind me.
There's R. I'm just proving that for you. All right. I got this guy Charlie in front of me, right? Charlie, Charlie, right? This tells me he has a wife. Okay, that tells me he has a daughter.
Basically, I was saying, because his wife's a little older, that's his young little daughter. That's a little abstract thinking here, folks, and don't read into any of this.
This long L tells me, let's just use the word, he needs loving care, or let's use the symbol of taking care of a child. This guy's in a little bit of dire
an open palm. If you greet somebody with an open palm, you're non-threatening, let's say. Again, abstract, but, we'll certainly give you one or two things on a multiple choice or one or two things on an essay.
Straights. Okay, that's it. That's enough about Gregg's shorthand.
Thank God. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to go ahead and play this again.
No more, I promise.
I wouldn't put money on that, young fella.
There's a lot of good videos on Gregg's shorthand. You got my symbol.
Meaning there's a lot of good videos on YouTube related to Gregg's shorthand. Boy, that L got chopped off, didn't it? Okay. You might want to come up with your own acronyms, but I really like that one, Should Church John, especially when I was learning that because, and pub too, and you take them down as low as you can, and then you only have to learn a few of them. And you could even create a story like Patricia and Beth are playing softball underhand. I don't know if you ever seen women play softball. I think they call it fast pitch softball. They can roll out. Let's just say Felicia and Vicky. I don't know. They'd have to be doing something where they're, let's say, trying to be cool and walk down the street. Let's say, in a, how they swing your arms like you're cool or something. But you get it. You get the idea. Create your own system. There it is, man. Voice and on-voice consonants. Okay?
You got my acronyms here, right there. Touchdown for TND, should Church John, or of course you're going to change them to yourself. Maybe you want to use should Church Janet. Favor for F and V, King, right? Good enough. Now, what I was saying, I'm still with you. Let me just clear this up. Okay, now we're on to a new subject. This is called the major system, all right? Now, I'm going to let you read this for yourself. I'll tell you.
I'm going to start off here and go down what I would think appropriate speed. Now, there's no vowels in this system, folks, but it's the same as Gregg's shorthand. And notice how we talked about before, touchdown, right? Nancy and Mary. We'll just say Rachel for purposes of conversation. Rachel and Linda, right? Pub. But before we were talking about Gregg's shorthand, weren't we? Right? What are we talking about now? We're talking about the major system. I use the same acronyms. How about that, huh? Let me be quiet for a second and let you read this. W, H, and Y do not apply. And if you're someone like me that has a pre-planned, how would you remember that? World Health. I would probably use yo-yo there, or yak for an animal, or a Yamaha car with a Yamaha engine in it, or a Youngstown yellow pack of cigarettes, or a musician named Yanni. Double letters have only a single value, not two. Silent letters do not count, I believe, because they are not heard. Okay, fire this back up.
Hey, this darn iPhone is like supposedly state of the art, and my other one worked 100 times better in terms of focusing.
Oh, poor John's iPhone's not working right.
Suppose it doesn't help that I'm moving this.
I already did this, but I'm just going to let it play. Folks, the reason I'm doing all this, I'll show you. This can be used so many times. I'll touch on when I took so many darn psychology classes. I have no idea why. I wasn't studying to be a psychiatrist or a psychologist because they're easy classes. That's why. But I probably taken 7 or 8 or 9 psychology classes. And I'll talk about how, they always have this thing, especially with Piaget. We had to know the breakdown of the age breakdown. And it was murder. Well, not for me, but for most students, because it was like 4.5 to 7, 4.5 years old to 7. And it was so, it was just, the students were going crazy because it was hard. I'm still here.
The big thing here is what? And you can find this on YouTube. You know, my videos or plenty others. It's called the major system for memory. It's as old as the sun. Many cultures have used it.
Just to repeat, YouTube, it's called the major system for memory. Type that in a search engine for YouTube or go to the library, the major system.
Basically, we're not using
I'll actually let me just do this right now. This guy's got a pretty good book out explaining the major system. I'll show you that paper in a second. I wish I could bump this up and know exactly where I'm at, but I don't know. Actually, I could bump that up. All right, this is this guy's work. Just so I'm not doing anything, let's say, unethical. He's got a good YouTube channel. So does Dr. Anthony Metztivier from the magnetic memory method. I talked about him in my other video. All right, so let's go ahead and just show you how, for the acronyms to lock that in. I use touchdown there. This says 2 lines down for N, 3 lines down for M. Gives you 3. Let me go back to 0. Man, see, this phone is not great. S, I think soft Z, soft C. All right, 1, 2, 3. On to 4. 4, the last letter of 4, F-O-U-R. Ends in an R. That tells you 4 is an R. 5, the hand makes a left, we'll just say, makes a L for 5. Okay, that's pretty good. Jerry Lucas uses this system too. That's who taught me. That was my first major teacher, besides my uncle. That's why I like that Should Church John. I mean, but he's saying that J turned backwards is like a 6. That's good. 7, if you have 2 7s, and I wish I had a free hand, but if you had 1 or 2 7s, you could kind of manipulate them so they make a K sound, and obviously the hard C will come to your mind. F, you see, F is a cursive F is similar to a number 8. Okay, 9, a P flipped backwards is a 9. I believe that's what he says. All right. Okay, gang, I'm gonna bump this up, save us a whole lot of time. Now, this system, the major system, okay, what good does that do us without any numbers? Where's all this going? Right here is where it's going. I like that. I thought that one up. That's me. Give me a little bit of credit. That's ZZ Top for 00. There's also a goalie I know, a professional goalie that wears 00. Mr. Z, that guy was a Golden Glove boxer. Sam, you could say Uncle Sam. See, I can't see through this phone, so sun. I guess you could use the sun, both a sun and the sun in the sky. Zach for 07, sofa. And I've got this all laid out on a memory palace. I wish I could tell you where, but it's not inappropriate. I just don't want to say the location. And it actually goes to a historical site that's away. This memory palace goes, I would say, over 60 miles, maybe even 100 miles. All right, so you get the point. Using this, if we say, what is 1? We got to come up with a word with 1 that doesn't use vowels. Okay, there it is, tie. What would you use for 2? Noah. And there's a guy I know that starts with I don't want to say his name, but he was number 2 in grade school. There I would use my friend Joe and my mom. How about that? And it's, I see my mom thought about having 3 kids, by the way. Rye, and I have somebody for number 4 and somebody for number 5. So I double them up with the person and the law. And there I would make that person became a policeman when he got older. You get the point. All right. So how would that help us? Let's go back to this class. I did not look at this, folks, and I might have it wrong, but I don't believe so. 38 is what? Go to the secret chart. 38 is what? Mafia. Marcia marries assault rifle against, let's say, her left armpit. Why is she 38 years old? Because she's in the mafia. That's why. Go to Mr. Redmond. Well, let's just use an American Indian figure, okay, for that name. All right. Go to 65. What is 65? And incidentally, when you're learning this, well, it's jelly. Let me finish a sentence before I start moving around. When you're learning this, if you said, to learn it, you'd say t. 1 is t, 2 is n. That would help you. Noah, tie. Let's move on to 22. None. Notice how I'm pronouncing the thing. Name. Nero. Nail. And we had a case study of a guy named Dax, right? And I word mapped that to Dayton axe in my other video. If you have an axe, you're going to hit it with a hammer. And let's say that hammer is tough as nails, no pun intended, or I should say the nail is as tough as nails. The hammer exploded. Just there was an explosion. See, notice the triple locking. 3, 4, 6, 7. Boom, 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 boom. Right? Moon. Mail. The mail came late, the 35th day of the month, right? Ha, ha, ha. I know, there's no 35th days of the month. All right. And incidentally, where's 81? Do I have it? I might not have it. I have it on my other chart, not on this one. I use Fat Albert. Fan, foam, fire, foil, fish, and then what? Vicky, right? Do I have 87 on there? I probably don't. 88 is Fife. 89 is Phobia. 90 is Bus. 91 is Bat. 92 is I got to go to my memory palace. 92 is Bone. 93 is Beam. 94 is Beer. 95 is Plow. 96 is Beach. 97 is Backpack. 98 is Beef. My father was a meat cutter. 99 is Pipe. All right. Like I said, this guy is where you can, there's a lot of books, but I actually bought that book and gave it away as a gift. But you can find the major system in there. Or a simple Google search will do the trick too. But you might not find, you might have to dig a little deeper to find some of those. And there can be different ones. I'm trying to think of core. This is totally not staged, folks. This is right off the neural network of my mind. Core. Is core 74? I might not have 74. I forgive me if I'm saying that wrong. Okay. Car, right? I use core. The core of Al Gore leaning up against a car. That's all one symbol, by the way. So in a class, if I had to know that, let's say 74% of, let's just use this class as an example. Let's say 74% of all, I'm trying to think. In class, we talked about something to the effect of a high number of, let's just call them passive suicides. I'm probably saying that backwards. But the point is, let's say that I knew that the professor was going to have a percentage. And let's just say it was 62. I would lock that in with Jane. Let's say it was 63. I would lock that in with Jam. Let's say it was 64. I would lock that in with Jar. You could say, how would you do that? Well, if someone's dying, you could say you put their ashes in a jar. Let's say it was 84%. You could say there's a fire because they're dying. We're burning them. Let's say it was 43%. You could say mummy. I'm sorry, 33. 33 is mummy. I can't see through this phone. I cut off that Y on mummy. See, that would be good, because when someone dies, you wrap them in let's say, a mummy cloth. Let's say it was 21%. Well, a fisherman went out to sea and died in his net. There's no creativity, just associative thinking, big deal. Let's say it was 9%. Bees. You got stung by a bee and now you're dead. Bear with me, folks. I'm gonna just go ahead and bump this up and see if I can. I covered all this. Good. Yep. Let me. Let me just see really quick.
Okay, she was 67 years old. We go to the chart.
You see that number 55 for Charlie. That was the guy that had schizophrenia. See if I can pull 55 on this chart. Lily, right? Yeah, there it is. 55. I can't drive 55. Now, you'd have to be a little creative. You'd have to come up with a way how Lily would give a guy schizophrenia. You could say, I don't know, maybe what are they called? Mushrooms or something, psychedelics. Or you could say the Lily's wilted, like his brain's a little wilted. And I'm not making fun of people with emotional setbacks, folks. So don't go there. Don't go there. Now, I believe. Oh. I'm trying to think. See, I really don't need to memorize this because it's not on a test. But I'm trying to think of the case study we just did. And I'm just going to pull it. And I believe the child was 6, which is Shu, when he first was diagnosed with some disease. I believe it talked about the myelin. And I believe he was 15. When he was wanted to, forgive me for being so crude and blunt, wanted to take himself out. Okay, so you could say he's in a pair of shoes and a towel, right? And I believe he had a little puppy dog too. So you could say he wrapped his puppy dog in a towel. Or you could say he wanted to wrap his own body in a towel to end his life and only leave his shoes hanging out. You see, I can't pull what case study that was, and I can't even pull it's over there. It's over there. I'm not getting up and looking at it. All right. That's enough of that. Let's see. Oh, let me let you see this other one too, because it's pretty good.
67 is Jack. Okay. There it is. Why would an old woman in a nursing home be playing solitary?
I don't know, John. Why would an old woman in a nursing home be playing solitary? 67, there it is. And even it would come Jack. And when you're memorizing these, 67, Jack. 65 is Lily. 66 is Jane. 61 is shot. 59 is lip. 58 is leap. That's how I used to do it. Of course, I have my memory palace now, so I fly through that. The only reason I went through all this stuff of making all this let's say, added. I didn't know. I wanted to come out of the blocks hard, and I don't do this anymore. But I like to, that first test, man, I try to knock it down. I didn't have to do all this. I just use, little stamps on my paper, or let's say draw little figures. I might have silenced that guy's lips because of this woman needing some type of stuff. I can't remember why I did that. I can't remember why I did that either. I think it was related to some, well, it was related to her disease. I know that. She had kidney disease and something else she got diagnosed with. That was my theory behind putting the holes in that. And I used the red color for, I don't even want to say what organ it was. Anyway, I'm starting this up.
I don't know, because that's what they do. But the point...
Meaning that old people play solitary in the nursing home.
Is, let's say they gave her the nickname, Anyway, I use...
So, I shouldn't have... Anyway, let me just start this up.
Used a jack, okay? I used a jack. And, for Mr. Redman, okay, I locked that in with red,
You are so lying. I actually said that at the beginning of the video, what I locked it in as. See, I could care less now because the semester's over, but I was just so careful of my wording.
Because I think he said he was a tough man or something. I locked that in with brake shoes.
Oh, sure you did. Anyway, I'm going to bump this up. This isn't bad here.
Briefly talk about creating your own shorthand. Okay, that's my shorthand for because. That's my shorthand for cause. That's my shorthand for would. And notice I didn't follow the regular Gregg shorthand. That's my shorthand for connective tissue. And I used to use this back in the day when I took an anatomy and physiology. Right? I'm jumping from Gregg's shorthand back to the major system. Tissue is what? I just use TS. T is 1, S is 0. Okay? For bone, that's Gregg's shorthand for bone. Okay? B-O-N. Sometimes I would use the major system for bone.
Why would I do that? Why wouldn't I use Gregg's shorthand all the time? I'm still here. I'm intentionally being silent. Why? I mean, why would I jump around and create my own shorthand a little bit? Because Gregg's shorthand is too hard to read unless you're an expert. I am far from an expert at Gregg's shorthand, but I'm pretty good, particularly mixing it with the major system and mixing it with my own shorthand and just writing out words normally as they are in our English language. Folks, I can almost eliminate 60% of my writing and still easily, bring it back to myself. Maybe look at it a little bit after class just to make sure that I didn't butcher anything. That's kind of cool, folks, because I can relax in class. And I might be able to, if I didn't think, let's say, the professor was looking at me, I might put my hand over my head and revert back some of the stuff that I think might be on the test. Or write off in the margin what he or she said, this way feed back their ego. I remember one class I took, this is so funny, a male teacher, and I would scribble some stuff down that he said, and it was like, I don't know, a month later, and he asked a question, and he said, "John, that is really, really well stated." And I said, I bet you like those words. I said that they're your words.
What does 9 say? 9 says P or B. 2 is N, right? 92. And even here's cell. Sometimes I would write 05. There's the Gregg shorthand for cell. Right? Look at S.
I know I'm going slow, folks, but you know what? Sometimes slow is good.
There's S, right? There's E. And there's L. Okay? Even in this class, because we live in an era where everything's on Blackboard and it's easy, but I'm so old that I remember, all you had, we didn't even have dry erase boards. We had chalkboards. And let's say I had to keep writing this word non-malevolence. Right? Non-malevolence. Imagine how that would speed me up.
Just to reiterate from that other video, when the professor asked me what is malevolence, Mary's Athletic League, right away, no harm, no evil, because Mary's a Christian name, and typically women are more concerned about, nothing goes wrong, that they don't want evil during an athletic event, which is a good thing from an evolutionary standpoint.
And it would also,
so I don't use Gregg shorthand too much anymore, but back in the day, you see that nice curve symbol, of, let's say, kindness, of gentleness, like, let's say, rocking, right? No harm. There's no harm in sliding down a slide. There's no harm in going on a straight road with no bumps.
Will give me the answer too, by the way. I talked about this in my other video. I would use Mary's Athletic League. And because Mary is a Christian name, you could say do harm, no evil.
Okay? Don't do harm.
I could double it in with Gregg shorthand. You could say that's a symbol of comfort, let's say.
And incidentally, you could also double that in with the major system. Just for fun, let's do that. 3 is M. 3 is M. L is 5. 35. Male. Male men typically, or male female delivery people are generally considered, let's just say, good, kind, non-evil, non-malevolent, non-harming people. Because they give them background checks, I would assume.
No evil.
See, that's 3 things. You got this, that's 4 things. You got the spelling of the word, you got Gregg shorthand, you got the major system, and whatever other one I just said, I can't remember.
Evil. Smooth. You say it's smooth.
I know I'm replaying this stuff, folks. I know. I'll bump it up in a second.
And comforting. Okay. That's it. Because that other video's footage was so sloppy, and I do mean sloppy, and I'm just gonna show you some of my alphabet list. Incidentally, that's more Gregg shorthand.
I forgot about this part of the video. If I would have remembered that, I would have probably. I hope it comes through, is all I can say. And I'll see. Incidentally, when you see that character B, how big it is on the screen. I would just write, really small. Really small. Really, really small.
My symbol for B. He's not doing anything.
And a lot of times, even for my Gregg shorthand, I'll go WR, or even THR for there. It's only 3 strokes it saves me, but you multiply that over a paragraph, and before I was talking about how I have my own shorthand for because or cause or connective tissue. I really like that tissue sign, or 92 is bone, right? Talked about that. Bone. Double. I can use blah, 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 blah.
That's my symbol for on. That's my symbol for in. Face got smashed in. This is my symbol for patient.
And boy, I use that a lot in this class, folks. How many times did the professor say, the patient, the patient, the patient? And I thought about you coming up with one for physician, which I'm not going to talk about. But there's my symbol for patient. You could say because they go there for, let's say, to get healed, And I don't mean that from a religious standpoint, but that's a religious symbol. I'll probably repeat that because I can't remember what I said.
Family member, in our family that is a nun, so I'm very familiar with that symbol. It helps. I use that all the time, even in this class. In this way, when the teacher's talking and I want to write something down, it's that much quicker. And even on the end of words, like at the...
I should have left this out. If you really start to study Gregg's shorthand, at the end of the word, the ED, they just take it way up. And being a smart guy that I am, sometimes I'll disconnect it. Like I'm trying to think of a word with an ED. I'm too embarrassed. I'll say something wrong. I have something in my mind, but I'm too embarrassed to say it. But I will intentionally disjoin it. That lets me know that it's, and TION, I believe it's straight down, and TIV, I believe it's cocked in like that. It's been years since I've used Gregg's shorthand at a, let's say, consistent level.
TION is just down like that, like nation. And then the second half, I'll just kick down. Or ED is just brought up like that. Sometimes that's a little bit beyond this scope. Anyway, this was all covered in my other video, but I wanted to give a little clearer footage.
See, the reason I do not use Gregg's shorthand as much as I used to is because using the spelling of the word is easier. Because I don't have to jump another step. It's already done for me. Again, what I was saying here, folks, that other video was such garbage. There's my male and, because the video footage was unclear. There's my male and female character for A, Ann and Andrew, Beth and Bob, Chris and, you get the point. I'm going to fly through this a little bit.
An alphabet list of people, both male and female, Beth and Bob. Chris, that name is let's say gender neutral. Diane and Dave, Eleanor, Frank.
And I talked about how my other video, Frank lives in Franklin University. Frank drives an F-150. Frank smokes filtered cigarettes. Eleanor's favorite movie is E.T. Like I couldn't think of the favorite movie for Frank. But he wears flip-flops. Gail wears a glove. Eleanor Roosevelt wears a... I can't think of it. I think earrings is what I use for Eleanor Roosevelt.
Frankie, that'd be a free female version. Gail and Gregg, Heather and Hank, Ida and Isaac, Jane.
And Janet, which are actually one person. She was too cool to be just one person.
Although I've been using Janet I used to use Jane. Anyway, Jay's the male name. And you don't have to think about that because you just say, what's Jay?
What does Jay drink, by the way? Jack Daniels. Doesn't have to be alcoholic. You can make it non-alcoholic if you want. Or you could make it herb tea that they just call Jack Daniels.
It's Jay. It's Jay. What's K? It's K. Linda. All right. You get the idea. You got to create your own. Okay?
I talked about this in the other video. You got to know Tina is number 20. Sue is number 19. And she's married to Bernie Kosar. Tina's married to who? You know, I just don't want to say that person's name.
Person, place. You got to know that Sue lives in Switzerland. You got to know that Sue is the 19th letter of the alphabet. So when you're doing a memory palace and you're on station 19, automatically Sue comes up. Automatically Salem cigarettes come up. Automatically a Subaru will come up in terms of transportation. You know, you'll have an alphabet list of holidays. The Steve Miller Band will be there. You see, that's location.
While St. Patrick's Day is going on March 19th, not March 17th, by the way. There's a whole big thing around that woman, Sue. She's a good woman. She owns a garden. She's just a good person.
Mnemonics. There's plenty of good videos on that, which I talked about in my other video. I recommended a guy. I'm not going to cover that. I did that enough in my other video. Okay? Here's an alphabet list of last names. Okay?
Only reason I'm doing this, folks, is because the video footage was so blighted. You got to come up with your own. In fact, it's better that you don't use mine. But it gives you the idea of how all over the map I am.
I talked about in my other video how I changed G.
That Dick Goddard is a newscaster, by the way.
To Dick Goddard. Howard Hanna. That's, I believe, a housing place.
What do they smoke there? Huffington Post cigarettes. I really like that, and I came up with that myself. You know, Huffington Post.
All right. Change that to Knievel. Evil Knievel. That's a great lock-in. God, could you imagine that you're taking a test, you know, and you got a first last name like Knievel?
And he's smoking cool cigarettes, and he's driving a Kia, or she's driving a Kia, and she's married to Kevin.
How that would bring the images. Johnny Unitas, that's good. You know, obviously McDonald's. Okay?
That's really good. You know, smoking Marlboro cigarettes while sitting outside McDonald's, driving a Maverick. My mom used to own a Maverick, by the way.
Ricky Nelson, that's my mother's favorite singer. That little stinker right there, I chopped off his last name. He used to come up to me and whisper in my ear in high school, you know, how's that 100-yard dash looking? Because he was so quick. And, of course, I would always say, hey, why don't we set up 5 cones and we'll see who the man is. Because I was quicker than him, but I couldn't beat him in the 100-yard dash. Anyway, we will move along. Action verbs. The only reason I'm doing this is because, you know, the other video was so crappy.
See, Anne is absorbing, Beth is bouncing, Chris is cupping, Diane Sawyer's dancing, Eleanor Roosevelt is eating, Frank is, let's say, flying, Gail is, well, I don't want to say what Gail's doing, Heather is hopping, you see, while she's smoking, Huffington, posting cigarettes, driving a Honda, celebrating, let's say, Hanukkah or Halloween.
You know, absorbing, bouncing, cupping, eating, flying, grinding, hopping, icing. That's a hockey term. I like that Tai Chi.
I like that hockey term, too. I actually never met that woman. I used to be on Facebook. I'm no longer on Facebook. But I became friends with like about 5 women that were like over 65. And they were just really cool, you know what I mean? They were all into this like... They thought they were like the most spiritual people in the world. And they were pretty spiritual, you know, and I was like their adopted, let's say, I don't know. They were just really fun to me. Even, you know, people would say, who are all those old ladies commenting on your Facebook posts? And I actually, one of them I knew, but they would always, it was like weird. I had like these older women on my Facebook page that I didn't even know half of them.
Because it's such a good...
But she lived in Canada. She's deceased now. But I have a whole thing around her ice skating and stuff. She was a swimmer too, so anyway.
Action along with swimming. Okay? So you could say Patricia is punching. Patricia H., which was a softball player.
I just threw that in there for my one friend. I'll probably send him this video. We still talk about that woman till this day. It's kind of pathetic in a way, but anyway.
She's punching. She's driving a Pinto. She's smoking Pall Mall cigarettes. She's listening to Paul Simon. And incidentally, folks, I am not looking at anything. Okay? That's all in my mind. Okay, what station is Patricia on?
16.
The 16 station. And she's married to that guy that was number 16 from the 49ers. Okay? So we got a 16 station.
You trying to think of Joe Montana?
Any information, you're going to lock it in. Okay? I know this is all in my other video. I'll try to keep this video under 30 minutes.
Good luck with that. You're at a minute. You're at an hour, 6 minutes, my friend.
Okay? It's an alphabet list of animals. I'm not going to reanimate the wheel and go through all this. Okay, Willow owns a walrus. Not a dog. She walks a walrus. Where? At Walmart parking lot, in her wagon, smoking her Winston cigarettes, listening to Willie Nelson.
What's her favorite movie? Witches on Wall Street.
And I am not looking, folks. What is Willow's religion? Wiccan. All right? Alphabet list of bicycles. Cannondale, Diamondback, Huffy. Nobody will forget that. Giant.
At least not in my age bracket. Some people might say, what's a Huffy?
Independent Fabrication. Jameson. Klein. It's a very expensive bike. Little out of my league. All right, Look or Live.
Gang, I'm gonna shut this off. That's enough of that. Let me just go through this and see if I can pick up anything that's unbelievably important that I haven't. I'm just going through all my alphabet list. Let me let this play for 30 seconds. Alphabet list of movies.
Movie list. Notice how Beth, because she's a beautician. Boxers and beautician and boxers.
Driving a Buick, living in Bree, Ohio, smoking, drinking Budweiser.
I know these people. These are all personal people to me.
That's very important, folks. In terms of memory techniques, you got to use personal people.
Eleanor Roosevelt's listening to E.T.
I should say watching the movie E.T. from the 1980s.
Smoking her e-cigarettes. Driving her electric vehicle. What color is she? Emerald, let's say. Frank's listening to Fat Albert, driving his Ford F-150.
Saying, hey, hey, hey.
Okay? And of course, if you know the alphabet switcheroo, right away, Frank is the 6th letter of the alphabet.
That you have to know, folks. You have to be able to know what number the alphabet is. So when you do a memory palace, even on a pen, I'll be very honest with you, gang. I sometimes I would take pens, not, let's say, in high school, not never in college, of course. I would lock it in. So, okay, Ann lives there, Beth lives there. There's the 3rd. Chris lives there. Diane Sawyer lives there because she can afford to. Okay. Eleanor Roosevelt lives there because she's a soft, educated woman, let's say. Frank would live here. Okay. And then I'd tip, Gail would live here. And of course, I have reasons, and you look at that and come back. Ann is here, right? So if you got information to study, like this is going to be on our test, right? You got information to study. So when the teacher asks me in class, what are the 4 elements of consent, right? I look right there. I'm not looking, folks. I'll admit it. I don't know 1, but 2 is it's risk because you can drown. 3 is benefits because the wind moves the, let's say, germs around. If you believe, let's just say for purposes of conversation, we believe that there's germs. So we want wind. Fire, I'm looking for an alternative. And let me just for fun see if I can pick earth. I think it's how stuff was done. That was close. The nature of the procedure. I probably would have got that right on a test. If depends on the professor if they would give it to you or not. And the same thing, there's another thing that we have to know, which I use Anne, Beth, Chris, and Diane. Let me work backwards. Is it done appropriately, right? Because Diane Sawyer is, let's say, the most appropriate person that ever walked the planet. I think she's very attractive, by the way. And then Chris, the decision maker in the family. There are some people where one of the couples makes all the decision and the other person is like a surrendered soul. For Beth, I believe it's competence. And I'll tell you how I did that in a second, but let me just finish this out. For Anne, does it benefit the patient? And actually, I'll tell you exactly what I use, and this was not staged. I always do. I'm from the inner city, man. I use alcohol and cigarettes and all kinds of stuff. But actually, I have it like this. Okay, so Anne, does it benefit her? So we'll make that non-alcoholic. And then for Beth, now if you've ever seen beer, they've got little tabs like this, right? And you crack it open. And Beth's symbol is her cheekbone. She has really nice cheekbones. Not as nice as Diane Sawyer's, but nice. So when you crack that can open, see how the lock-in? Does her cheekbones have the capacity to crack that can of beer open? We'll just make this one alcohol since the other one was non-alcoholic. There's no law against, you can drink alcohol in the United States. Rarely do I ever drink it, but you can drink it, okay? Her cheekbones are so powerful that it automatically opens the can. This third can is Chris. The voice. She's the one that, let's say, tells the family what type of alcohol we're going to bring home. And then Diane Sawyer, doesn't matter because everything's appropriate with her, let's say. All right.
Eating at what? 5 guys and a what? 5 guys and a father.
I love that. Because I needed the number 6. So 5 and then a father is 6. I'm just going to bump this up. There's an alphabet list of amusement park rides. My sister used to work at an amusement park. She got me to work with her for 1 year. Anyway, you get the idea. Demon drop, Ferris wheel, tilt-a-wheel, the slide, quadrant cars, wild witches for Willow.
Smoking her government-issued cigarettes, driving her Geo. Why? Because she can't afford anything else.
See, again, and right away, just for fun, Frank is the 6th letter of the alphabet. Gail's the 7th. So on a 7th station of, let's just say here, on a 7th station, which I use a golf club, a 7-iron golf club in the car, and I would probably keep those in my book bag. So if we had to memorize 7 or 8 or 12 or 15 things, I would have to lock that in with the spelling, would take me to the car, and it wouldn't matter. Let's say the first word was an A, it would be Acura. If it was a B, it would be a Buick, a specific car, by the way. If it was C, a Camaro, D, a Datsun with Diane Sawyer there, E, Eleanor Roosevelt, electric vehicle, smoking, E, cigarettes. I don't mean that in a slang thing, but, That's your money shot, man. The memory palace is the money shot. But this having an alphabet list of just 3 things, you don't have to have an alphabet list of 10 things like I do. That's why when the professor, and I've talked about this in my other video, when she says condition of doubt, all I see is Bluetooth. And I say, there's not adequate enough information getting in. And it's a physician, because back in my day, the only person that could afford a Bluetooth was a physician. When the teacher says, therapeutic privilege, I just use a specific high school that begins with a T. Let's say Texas High School at an emergency room, with a story created around that. I talked about that in my other video. That's why I can boom, 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 boom. As soon as she says non-maleficence, I just say Mary's Athletic League and say, oh, doesn't that have something to do with doing no harm or causing any, let's say, evil?
Heather's again with her Honda.
And this way I can study, let's just hypothetically say this was a 300 level class where I had to prepare for the essay. So I'm preparing for the essay while the other people are studying, hoping to get 80%.
Listening to Hank Williams.
All right, gang. You get the idea. Bunch of amusement park rides and an alphabet list. And again, if this is an alphabet list at the end of words, not at the beginning, because I use a person and place at the beginning, but you could convert this to Gregg's shorthand. This is what this video is about. You can convert that to the major system. In the major system, vowels don't count. So we got a 3 here. PH, we'll just say, makes an F sound. So we'll go to our chart. Three, 38. You can see how much you can do just from the word. And also you got American Sign Language, which I did not talk about. I'm not going to go through all that, gang. A, B. And incidentally, let's just really quick talk about the American Sign Language, just the alphabet. I'm not telling you to learn American Sign Language. Didn't we have a woman named Brittany or something where she flopped her hands? No, it was Elizabeth. Yeah, it was Elizabeth. Because a lizard in a bat flops her hands. That's how I locked that in. I'm not looking at anything, folks. But let's just say you didn't have my training and all you had was you forget the first part. But let's just say Beth, okay? See, she's flopping because her hand's cut off. Let's just say somehow a razor blade got stuck in your thumb, and your hand's flopping around. That would bring back something. So you got a bunch of stuff. You got the spelling, you got American Sign Language, you got the major system, you got American Sign Language, Gregg shorthand. There's no stopping you now, folks.
Stuff at the end of the words. And I talked about how in my other video I don't get confused because I only use a person or place at the beginning, and I'll use this towards the end of the word or towards the end of the syllable. These are great picture words, by the way. Amphitheater, how could you get better than that? Beth is at the beach. Chris is at the circus. Diane Sawyer is at the dugout.
Notice the symbol for Diane Sawyer is her cheekbones, okay? So it got dug out. Let's just say because I don't want to. It's nothing inappropriate, but I don't want to explain how I locked that in. Eleanor Roosevelt's eye produces electron clouds because she was such a powerful woman. And then you come with acronyms like this, folks. You keep a book like this with a bunch of acronyms, right? I'm not going to go through all this. But right there, we'll just cover some of those. Okay? Young liberal, young Republican, opium yacht, elbow flexor. I'm not looking, folks. I know all these. Engine gas, athletic director. I'm just going to vet these so I don't say anything. Nanotechnology for NT. This one I'm struggling with a little bit because through the years I changed that to Yahoo Mail, but I used to use the hyoid bone. But what in doubt? What's my what in doubt? First and last name, Heather Young. Neutral zone. Just want to make sure I don't have anything in here that's bad. Waving Neanderthal. Right? What in doubt? Chris Isaac. Or you could say, if that was IC, I would use intensive care. Yeah, Columbus iguana. Because I know right away it can all be Columbus or Chris. Igloo. Igloo is what I've changed that through. Right? I used to use, let me just make sure I don't have anything. I used to use Youngstown State. I use Southern Yankee now. This is that got updated before. You know, I use Snow Queen, related to somebody addicted to cocaine. Electron microscope, Carrie Edwards. Some of you might be remembered, they ran a political campaign. Just making sure. Front radiator, Columbus Railroad. I talk about that. Anytime there's an R, I use a railroad. Texas Instant Message, Texas Original Manufacturer, Texas U of M, University of Michigan, Texas AM, Texas Electron Microscope, World Health Organization, or World Health. I'm trying to think of the animal. It'll come to me in a second. Octopus, World Health. Sometimes I'll use Electron Cloud. Sometimes I'll use Association there. Roadman for ESPN 850 WKNR. Eric Clapton for EC. Some of these I got to be careful with. Right there. Diane Sawyer, right? Original Manufacturer, Premier League, Toyota Year, Elbow Flexor, Gooseneck, Garfield River, Eric Clapton, Undergrowth. That's just the armpit, by the way. Right there. Yard sale, Yahoo Mail, Yahoo Messenger, International Zone. I use that in this class for something, by the way. Young Texans. So I used to use Young, but I've been using Yahoo lately. All right, you get the idea. I wish I could show you more of these, but I can't because I can't. All right. That's that. That's that. And you might say, I got no need for this stuff. C's get degrees. Well, here's the thing, folks. Eventually, you're going to get out in the real world, okay? Where you have to know 4130 is chromoly steel. How you have to know 6061 is T6 airplane grade aluminum. You have to know 7018 welding rod. I believe that's a fast freeze. No, I think that's a fast freeze. 6010 welding rod. I haven't looked at those in years. But getting back to Piaget, when we had to know the childs, all the ages. Teacher said I was the only one, and she taught thousands of students. There was only 5 of us throughout our history that got an A in the class without doing extra credit. Okay? Right there. Back to machinist background. 12L14, 1018 cold rolled. Just imagine if you work for a machinist shop, and let's say you were just starting, okay? And you go in Monday, and they hand you a thing, and they tell you to memorize all that. And guess what? You got a system like this. You think you'd get promoted if you knew half of them before the next Monday? I think you would. Let's say you were an electrician. Okay? Kirchhoff's law, Ohm's law. Okay? You're going to have to know certain numbers, right? You're going to have to know certain numbers for that, folks. You're going to have to know the 5-volt reference. You're going to have to know all that type of stuff. And you've got the major system. And you know the spelling switcheroo. Okay? This is real world stuff. Right? Let's just say K. Isaac, if you want to use a first last name. You could use church. You could use flat foot. Or let's just say you just want to use the last two letters, flat foot. At least there's something in your mind right there. The voltage equals the sum of every voltage drop. Well, if you're flat-footed, right, in the sand, you don't have an arch. That's the sum of your weight, okay? So you're going to become a AFC certified mechanic and make more than someone that didn't pass that test. That's it, folks. I'm going to shut it down.